Caribbean coast. Belize, for example, is formerly known as British Honduras.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacific is also much drier than the Caribbean.
Okay, I did not know that. I just assumed that all the weather would be coming in, it'd be wet, so it's drier.
Yeah. Well, you are in the tropics, and depending on the time of the year, there may be hurricanes. Hurricane season in the Caribbean is June to September, October, and occasionally the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras occasionally get hit by hurricanes there. But for the dry season, which is really from November, December through till March, April, the Caribbean side is much drier than the rest of the year. But the Pacific coast is beyond the hurricane belt and is much drier generally.
What tours do you offer in this region?
Mercator Travel is the parent company of Central and South America Reviled, and so mainly we're doing tailor-made and small group tours. For Central America, we like to think of it as the 3 R's and the ABC of travel. The 3 R's being reefs, ruins, and rainforest, and ABC, adventure, beach, and culture. And a lot of tours will either be single country or combinations. For example, a combination of Guatemala with Belize. Start off in Antigua, which has got colonial history and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, going across to Lake Atitlan, where they've got colourful markets and indigenous culture there, going across to the Tikal ruins of Guatemala for the Maya culture, and then on to San Ignacio in Belize, which is a bit of adventure with cave tubing, and then on for a few days of relaxation on something like Ambergris Key. Another example would be a single trip to Costa Rica, starting off in San Jose, the capital, going over to Sarapiquí and Tortuguero on the Caribbean coast for wildlife, then over to Arenal, which is a volcano which has been continually erupting since 1968, and you can see the lava flows particularly at night, then on to the Monteverde cloud forest, and then perhaps a few days of beach and relaxation at Manuel Antonio.
So I'm just trying to picture all that in my head as you're describing it. So that's my list is just getting longer and longer. But
well, I'm sorry about that.
If you had 10 days, which of your trips would you choose and why?
Very difficult question. I'm passionate about colonial history and indigenous culture and colourful markets and ancient ruins, but I'm not really a beach person. Mm-hmm. So for me, something like Guatemala is particularly good, or Peru.
Peru, okay. For a more relaxing holiday, which tour would you recommend for a honeymoon?
Mexico is very popular for honeymoons, following a trip from Mexico City across to Oaxaca, Spanish colonial city, onto Palenque for a bit of the introduction into the Mayan ruins, and then on for rest and relaxation down at the Riviera Maya. Costa Rica is probably the most popular country for honeymoons in Central America. In South America, it has to be Brazil or Peru.
This is Seclo Sounds. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for 1 hour in the company of Harry and Edna on the wireless, exploring all aspects of the vintage scene and playing tip-top gramophone tunes. Harry and Edna on the wireless, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on seclosounds.org. Jolly good.
Sound the big thing now.
Hi, blessings to each and every one of you. Join me, Darren Hoy, with the Reggae Takeover Show for 2 hours of the finest reggae vibes, each and every Wednesday, 9 through to 11 p.m, here on Seclo Sounds. Don't miss out on your weekly Sunshine Fix, featuring roots, rude boy, dub, lovers rock, ska, one drop, and much, much more. So go on, give your sound system a treat. Join me, wind down low, and skank the night away. One love. That's Wednesdays, 9 through to 11 p.m, live on Seclo Sounds.
It's a top, my selector.
Now for some news of an event that's been held this Saturday the 14th of March at the venue Milton Keynes. It's Rock Chorus, which has been sponsored by the Lions Club of Bletchley. It starts at 7:30 and Rock Chorus has been going for 5 years now, but it's the first time it's been at the venue. The many choirs that make up Rock Chorus combine on stage to produce a sound spectacular that have you singing and waving like no one was watching, and there's also some proper audience participation as well. It's led by top singer, songwriter and vocal coach Lauren Field, and the aim is for maximum enjoyment for the singers and audience alike. As I mentioned, the concert is sponsored by the Lions Club of Bletchley, and proceeds this year will go to MK Snap and the club's charity fund to meet requests for help for those less fortunate than ourselves. The concerts have already raised over £6,000 for good causes, so book early for a great night's entertainment. So that's this Saturday, the 14th of March at 7:30 at the venue. Tickets are £15 or £12, and you can book online at www.thevenuemk.com, or you can call 01908 528808, and that's for the Rock Chorus that's being held at the venue MK this Saturday, March the 14th at 7:30. You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Still to come on the show, there's travel news, including a very brief story about getting married abroad. However, at the moment, I'm still continuing my conversation with David Gilmour. We've covered the highlights of Central America, how to get there, and visas and jabs and stuff. We're now moving further south, and we're going to start looking at South America. And the first country I wanted to know about was Colombia. And I'm sure when you hear the word Colombia, something comes into your head. But obviously, there's far more to the place than what you're probably thinking about. And David's going to start going through one or two of them.
Well, Bogota itself is the capital. It's a mix of old and new, trendy and traditional. Got a good range of colonial mansions, churches, and impressive public buildings. The Gold Museum there is particularly notable. An extraordinary place to visit in Colombia is a church built within a salt mine at Zipaquirá. It's about 2 hours from Bogota, and it's rightly regarded, I suppose, as one of the marvels of Colombia. And we usually stop there on the way to a fantastic colonial city called Villa de Leyva. Going up to the north, you've got a place called Tayrona National Park, which is covered by virgin tropical forest, home to a fantastic array of wildlife. I think it's got over 200 species of birds, various types of monkey, sloths, and goodness knows how many types of reptiles. There are also jungle trails for wildlife spotting and paths that link the various palm-fringed beaches. But the jewel, if you like, in the Colombian crown has to be Cartagena. It's a walled city which was used by the Spanish to ship gold, silver, and goods back to Spain, and consequently became the richest city in the Americas. But where there's gold, there are pirates, and Cartagena was frequently targeted by the foreign powers, including the French, Dutch, and British. In the 18th century, it was defended by attack from the British under a chap called Admiral Vernon. In charge of the defence of Cartagena was a Basque admiral. He's one of my great heroes. He's called Blas de Leso. He had one eye, one arm, and one leg, and he successfully defended Cartagena from attack by Admiral Vernon.
Was his nickname Lucky? With only one eye, one arm, one leg?
Well, in fact, he was a veteran of 23 different campaigns. He lost his leg, I think, in Malaga, and I think he lost his arm, or it might have been his eye, at Gibraltar when Spain lost Gibraltar to the British.
Yes, he's definitely a hard man, I think.
I mean, it was an extraordinary occasion. In that battle, in fact, Admiral Vernon had something like 28,000 men and 186 boats. It was the biggest naval deployment of its era, and was only superseded by D-Day 200 years later. Blas de Leso had something like 3,000 men under his command and 6 boats.
Wow. It's difficult to imagine that, isn't it?
Quite extraordinary. The first thing he did, actually, was to sink his own boats in the harbour. The reason for that is that stopped the British from being able to approach.
Yeah, I think I would have been running, not too busy thinking about what I'm going to do with the boats. I'd just be gone, be in the jungle hiding somewhere, but that's just me.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Moving on to a different country, is it easy to combine Angel Falls in Venezuela with a beach holiday?
It's actually probably much easier than you might think. The archipelago of Los Roques consists of about 300 islands and make for a fantastic beach holiday. And from there, you can fly to Caracas and then over the Angel Falls as a day trip.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to stay longer, then it's always a good idea to stay at a lodge in Canaima National Park for a day or two, which is lovely.
Now, Machu Picchu, I think I got that right. Who knows? I've heard that there's a lot of walking and using bushes as toilets when you go and see it. Is that true?
Well, Machu Picchu is arguably the most important archaeological site in the whole of the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
What you're referring to is the Inca Trail, which is a 4-day, 3-night hike of 26 miles in the Andes. So 3 nights or possibly 4 nights camping. Over the last few years, they have improved the facilities and the infrastructure so that there are now new flushing lavatories along the way and at all the major campsites. That's helped to improve the sanitary conditions enormously, although it has to be said that conditions are still not quite perfect. But in order to get to Machu Picchu, you don't have to hike the Inca Trail. There are trains from Cusco and from the Sacred Valley of the Incas. There's also a top-end luxury train called the Hiram Bingham Service, which was named after the archaeologist who rediscovered Machu Picchu in 1911. I've been lucky enough to have been to Machu Picchu, I think, 12 times in the last 28 years. I've done the Inca Trail on various occasions. I've taken the train, and however way you get there, it's always great fun.
My wife's the sort of person that gets upset there's not a minibar, so I don't think we'll be doing the trail. We'll be doing it by train.
Absolutely. My days, I think, of walking Inca Trail are probably over. Yeah, I'm much more inclined, if I can, to take the luxury train nowadays.
Is there anything else to do in Peru?
Well, we just mentioned Cusco, which was the capital of the Inca Empire. It's built in the Spanish colonial style upon Inca walls and foundations. Cusco's full of bars and restaurants and clubs and craft shops and cafes, and it's a fantastic place to spend a few days acclimatizing to the altitude. You're at 3,200 meters above sea level. Incidentally, in the cathedral there, they've got a painting of the Last Supper depicting Christ and his disciples tucking into that well-known Peruvian delicacy of guinea pigs. Other sites in Peru, we would recommend the markets and the villages of the Sacred Valley of the Incas, Lake Titicaca, the Nazca Lines. We have those funny drawings in the desert. The Amazon rainforest, 2/3 of Peru is actually in the Amazon basin, and travelers often like to spend 3 or 4 days at a jungle lodge, using the lodge as a base from which to explore the surrounding rainforest. Arequipa is another attractive colonial city and is the gateway to the Colca Canyon, which has got fantastic Inca terracing and is known for sightings of condors. In the north of Peru, there's been some important archaeological discoveries in the last few years, and this area is really beginning to open up to visitors. So it makes, again, for a very interesting experience.
You can contact us or just keep up to date with travel news at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
This is Seclo Sounds, your community radio station. If you'd like to volunteer some of your time and skills with Seclo Sounds, send an email to volunteers@seclosounds.org and let us know how you would like to be involved. MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.